Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor, with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today is Wednesday, April 8th. It is 10 a.m. Eastern, and we have a lot to talk about tonight, whether it's, recapping a little bit about what happened last night or looking ahead to tonight's games and the future. We'll get into all of it, but we will start by talking about tonight's games. And there are a few that I'm going to skip this evening, one of them being the Pistons taking on the Bucks in Detroit. But you do see Detroit as an 18.5-point favorite in that game. And part of the reason I believe they're favored by so much, Milwaukee is terrible. Let's get that out of the way. But the Pistons might be getting Cade Cunningham back tonight. It does sound like, the superstar is nearing a return from his collapsed lung. And, there's no Dennis Jenkins props available this evening. That really feels like a sign that Cunningham might be making his return tonight. So that does give him a little bit of time to get comfortable before the postseason starts. So hopefully we do see him out there, but still not much for me in that game. And I also don't have much for you in Grizzlies Nuggets. So I'm going to skip those two completely. But yeah, hopefully we get Cade back and we just kind of see him healthy the rest of the season, because that was a really unfortunate injury that he suffered, and, a scary one anytime you're talking about the lungs. So hopefully he's healthy, ready to, absorb contact and, isn't limited in any way outside of maybe like a minutes restriction early on, because we would like to see Detroit at full strength heading into the postseason. But let's move into the picks that I have for this evening. And it starts with the Hawks taking on the Cavaliers. And I'm going to loop in the Timberwolves and the Magic, because I'm actually playing a parlay in this game where I'm going Cavaliers on an alternate spread of plus 8.5, parlayed with the Magic money line versus the Timberwolves, and that's minus 118. And I'm actually going to take this to win 2 units. So risking, 2.36, pretty big play for me. The reason I'm doing it, though, is because I do really like Cleveland to win the game tonight. I'm just giving myself a little bit of extra wiggle room, because you do see Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson, and Dean Wade all questionable when looking at the injury report, whereas Atlanta not dealing with much of anything there. But this is a game that matters to the Cavaliers. I know that this point in the season, you're really thinking about the teams kind of lower in the standings, but the Cavaliers can still pass the Knicks and, end up getting the Raptors or something in the postseason, as opposed to this Hawks team in, a 4-5 matchup. So there is a lot to play for if you're Cleveland. And I do just kind of still think that the Cavaliers are, at worst, the second best team in the Eastern Conference. I know that we haven't really seen that in terms of just results. I think that Boston has looked like the best team in the East. I'll talk a little bit about them later, but I do think Cleveland, just in terms of roster, is at least second best, maybe even best when you're just talking about overall talent. And this Hawks team, I've talked about them a little bit. Very, very impressive run that they made since the All-Star game. It's been just an awesome defensive effort from them as a team. And offensively, they're getting just enough out of like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jalen Johnson, pretty much the whole team. Everybody's chipping in and doing a little bit of everything. But this team did get blown out in a road game against the Rockets. They lost the other day at home against the Knicks. I'm not sure we've seen them really win the types of games that you would need to see in order to believe that they would beat a team like Cleveland on their home floor. So I don't know. I feel like this Hawks team's a little bit lacking battle testing. And I do think that, this Cleveland team is a little bit too big for Atlanta. I feel like the twin towers of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen will be able to kind of have their way with Onyeka Okongwu and an undersized like Hawks front court. And where that might be a problem with other teams, like playing two bigs against, a quicker, more explosive Hawks team, it's really going to be fine, I believe, for the Cavaliers, because Mobley is so mobile defensively that he could cover some of the Hawks like non-shooters or just whatever big they bring out there. Like, I don't think they're going to be getting torched or blown by when you get like a perimeter player matched up against either Mobley or Allen. I think both those guys can actually hold their own against some of the non-shooters that the Hawks have. So I think Cleveland's in pretty good shape here defensively, especially if Wade plays. Wade is, maybe their best perimeter defender. So I think this is a game where if you see a somewhat decent injury report, maybe jump in on the Cavaliers money line. But I do like them on an alternate of plus 8.5 with the Magic money line. And the reason I like the Magic money line is really just kind of situationally, this is an Orlando team that absolutely needs a win. This is a team that is battling for as high as the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference still with 3 games to play. But at the very worst, they are trying to stay in the 7-8 game and hold off the Hornets, who are the 9 seed right now. The Magic are 0.5 games up on Charlotte at the moment. You really want to play in that 7-8 game, not the 9-10. It gives you 2 chances of making the postseason. But like I said, still a chance for them to finish 6 or 7. So there's still everything that Orlando wants in front of them. Timberwolves team is also very shorthanded right now, playing without Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards. And with no McDaniels over the last 6 games, they're 2-4 with a minus 0.8 net rating. And the team has been a nightmare offensively as well in those last 6, with Ant only playing 2 of those games. So missing 4 of them. This is a team that's just kind of missing their best offensive player and arguably missing their best defensive player right now. So Orlando has been, disappointing this season, but the team has won 3 straight. I would expect them to win at home against a very shorthanded team, even if it is a good Western Conference team facing, a mediocre Eastern Conference team. I think that the Magic win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it somewhat comfortably too, because you have Jalen Suggs out there to defend whoever ends up having the hot hand for the Timberwolves in the backcourt. That should be a quick kind of shut your water off switch. I don't really see any of the Timberwolves guards really lighting this Magic team up. And then, Julius Randle will have, his moments in this game, because I do think that he has the size and strength to kind of bully his way to the basket. But Orlando at least has some like big wings and big forwards to throw on him and, just hope to contest. So I think that the Magic will be fine defensively tonight, and offensively, I do think they're going to be able to take advantage of not only no McDaniels, but no Edwards, who can be very good defensively when he's locked in. So it's Cavaliers alternate plus 8.5 versus the Hawks, Magic money line versus the Timberwolves, minus 118 to win 2 units. Let's move on now to the Trailblazers at the Spurs. 9:30 p.m. Eastern tip for this one. And the big news here is that Victor Wembanyama is doubtful, and all the early reports are saying that the injury he suffered the other night was not serious. It's a rib contusion. I believe I just saw before I came on here, Chris Haynes reported Wemby had a clean MRI. He's considered day-to-day, and the reporting is saying he will be back at some point before the end of the regular season, presumably to play his 20 minutes and get out of there being awards eligible so that he could claim his DPOY, push for MVP, whatever it is. But I do think this is a game where, with no Wemby, you have to be looking to the Blazers side if you're looking for, one of these 2 teams. But I actually ended up taking the under 229.5 at minus 110 in this game. And I'll give you the reasons why. Since the All-Star break, Portland has actually been quietly playing some very good basketball, and they're 13-10 in that stretch. Defense is the reason why. They're number 4 in the NBA since the break, defensive rating at 109.3. And I think that this is a Portland team that's going to be able to take advantage of not facing Victor Wembanyama. That always helps, because Wemby is unbelievable offensively, just an absolute matchup nightmare. Not having to deal with him is going to be huge for Portland. The Blazers do have some good perimeter defenders for, the 3-headed monster that the Spurs have in the backcourt. So I think Portland's going to have, a lot of success defensively in this game. And I think San Antonio can too. I mean, Portland is not a great offensive team. And while San Antonio will be missing the defensive player of the year, this is a team that allows 111.2 points per 100 possessions this season. But when Wemby is off the floor and Luke Cornett is on, they only allow 113.9 points per 100. So they still perform like a top 10 defense when looking at kind of the numbers at cleaning the glass without Wemby and with Cornett on the floor. So this team is going to be able to kind of stay locked in defensively against a mediocre Blazers offense. And I do think we're going to see a slow, ugly game, even though I do think that there will probably be a push early on, at least, for San Antonio to try to kind of get things going and get the guards out in transition and run a little bit. But I do think it's going to end up turning into more of an ugly slugfest than people might expect. So I went under 229.5, but I do also like the Blazers. Wish it was like 5.5. So that's why I'm not taking it. So it's just the total for me in this game. If you're looking to sharpen your edge the remainder of the NBA season, VSiN Pro is where to go. Get advanced analytics, player prop projections, and expert insights used by serious bettors every single day. Try it out for only $9.99 for your first month and see what smart bettors are using to beat the books. Head to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all of the subscription options. I keep saying I love the $9.99 offer. We have so much on the website right now between NBA, MLB, NFL draft, soccer, pretty much everything is covered there. I have tennis up there. It's a really good time to be a VSiN pro. And then if you are a VSiN pro, you'll get all of my in-depth playoff coverage, whether that's, series previews or game by game stuff. I will be doing a ton for the postseason. So really looking forward to that. Looking forward to having meaningful games every single night. No more tanking teams. I think that'll be really good for us as we try to finish the season strong. But yeah, great time to be a VSiN pro, and $9.99 is a great offer. Come here, come to VSiN, see what you like. If you enjoy what you see, you'll stick around. If not, maybe we'll get you in the future. But $9.99 is a really good intro offer. Let's move on now to the Thunder taking on the Clippers. 10 p.m. Eastern tip in this game. This is one where you're seeing the Clippers only getting 6.5 points at home. Totals 225.5. And the reason is it does seem like OKC is prepared to rest the starters, even with this being a game that they really can afford to win. I mean, the Thunder are still trying to hold off the Spurs for the number one seed in the Western Conference. It's not locked up yet, but I'm sure that they feel confident they could win one of the final games and find a way to get it done, even without, taking this one very seriously. So you are seeing some kind of early reports that you might be missing SGA, Holmgren, Jalen Williams, the better of the two, and Isaiah Hartenstein this game. Then with that, there might be also some role players that end up missing this one. Overall, it just looks like this is a game the Thunder are going to consider punting, but obviously there's no such thing as punting with the Thunder. They are deep enough to win any game, especially against a team at the bottom of the Western Conference playoff picture. So this is not a great Clippers team. It's just a decent one. So I would not rule OKC out, even if they do have pieces missing. But the play I made in this game, kind of factoring in that there might be some bodies missing, is Kawhi Leonard over 25.5 points at -111. I just feel like this is the second leg of a back-to-back for the Clippers, but Kawhi only played 30 minutes last night. Would imagine he's feeling pretty good body-wise, so hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me saying that. You never really know with Kawhi. He can always pull out of a game with soreness in his knee or something. He could always be ruled out for a game before it even starts late. So it's not a guarantee he'll play. It's not a guarantee he'll play, a heavy chunk of minutes. But if he is out there, I do like him to have a good game as a scorer. I mean, 26 plus for Kawhi is like something he could do in his sleep, even against an elite defense like this one. I mean, over the last 10 games that Kawhi has played at home, he's averaging 29.8 points per game. He's had over 25.5 points in 8 of those 10 contests. And earlier in the year, he had 22 against this OKC team. And it was a game where he missed a ton of shots and some really good looks. So I would expect him to be a little bit sharper playing this one in LA. And it is a game that means something to the Clippers. I mean, like I said, when these playoff teams right now are playing, it really does matter because the seeding is so tight. I mean, Los Angeles is only one game up on Portland for 8 or 9 in the Western Conference. And I've said it before, you want to be in that 7-8 game. You want 2 cracks at making the playoffs. And it's not impossible either that the Clippers would pass the Suns the rest of the season. So even finishing at 7 and, hosting that 7-8 game is still on the table for Los Angeles. So plenty of incentive for the Clippers to win. Big game, and I do think Kawhi will deliver in a big game. Final game of the night that I want to talk about is the Mavericks taking on the Suns. Awful loss by my Phoenix Suns last night, who, went up big against Houston early on, ended up getting blown out somehow, which it's so hard to go up 20 and then lose by double digits in the NBA. But man, they found a way to do it. And the Suns defense, really let them down in the second half. And I just kind of think that that's going to be something that people are going to want to know for, Cooper Flag Watch, whatever you want to call it. This is a guy that is really trying to make a late push for Rookie of the Year. And you're seeing him now as a betting favorite over Concanipo in the market. I clearly don't agree with that. I've talked about that the last couple of days on Hardwood Handicappers, so don't want to go crazy about it tonight. But he did play a lousy game last night. He finished with 25 points. That's fine. But he was 9 for 25 from the floor, 1 for 3 from 3 against Los Angeles, in another loss for Dallas too. So, not another great performance for him, but I do think he's going to come out gunning in this game. And if you're somebody that has been looking at this as an opportunity to just kind of go over on flag props, here are the numbers for you. I think the best price that I saw, as of recording this. So like I said, now it's 10:30 a.m. Eastern. This might change by the time you are listening to this, but as of this recording, 25.5 was the best total I saw for him Over is minus 121 there. And then some escalators for people that want to ladder this and get really aggressive for it. It's plus 156 for him to have 30 plus. It's plus 376 for him to have 35 or more. And then it's plus 950 for him to have 40 plus. So if you want to go that route with Flag and just be very aggressive with hoping that he kind of gets himself back into having another awesome game and stealing all the attention away from Knipple again, those options are there for you. I do, however, lean Suns in this game, even laying the double digits in points. And I kind of think that last night will wake up Phoenix, both offensively and defensively. I mean, defensively, even like since the All-Star break, while this Suns team has kind of fallen apart, they're still a borderline top 10 team in terms of defensive rating. So that hasn't been the major issue. It's been the offense where they've just really struggled to kind of get guys comfortable playing together because players have been missing all season long for Phoenix. And that's something that they are now having to deal with as they are healthy. And it's just a really weird situation where, like, for the first time all year, they are at full strength and they just have no idea how to play with one another, whether that's Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Mark Williams. Like, these guys just don't have a lot of togetherness right now. So defensively, I think they're fine, which is why I really wouldn't go to Flags overs, but it is a matchup that I think that he's going to at least come out firing. So I know people are looking for it. I just wanted to kind of lay out the numbers for you. There it is, 30 plus 156, plus 156, 35 plus 376, and 40 plus 950 if you want to go with Cooper Flag to make another mark on, this Rookie of the Year campaign. That is all that I have for tonight, but I did want to talk about two things that I saw last night, which is one being a statement made by the Celtics in a 113-102 win over the Hornets. And then the other side of that Suns game last night was the Rockets winning 119-105, despite, like I said, falling down 21 early. Want to talk a little bit about both these teams. So we'll start with Boston. I just feel like that was a very impressive performance for them because Charlotte is playing for seeding, and Charlotte needs to win some more games in order to either avoid the play-in or end up in the 7-8 game in the play-in. And this is a Hornets team that we've talked about for the last couple of months as being one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. And with them going into Boston with a reason to win and Boston really having no reason to win, the fact that the Celtics were still able to win that game and win it like somewhat convincingly, I mean, they had pulled away by the late in the fourth quarter. It wasn't that close. It says a lot about the competitiveness of this team and just their ability to kind of flip a switch on both ends of the floor. And it was a really good game for the Brown-Tatum duo. You got 35 points out of Jaylen Brown. Tatum had 23, but it was on 8 for 15 shooting from the floor, 3 for 7 shooting from 3. He just looked way more efficient than we've seen him offensively. And there were some plays in the game where, like, he was attacking closeouts pretty aggressively. That's the type of thing that I'm enjoying seeing out of him as he's kind of getting comfortable after that long Achilles layoff, because it could be scary for these guys to like make quick twitch movements to the rim, but he was doing it. And, it was another game also where Nikola Vucevic played for Boston. He's now played 2 games since returning from that hand injury, and he continues to struggle with his jumper. Has really not had like a big moment with the Celtics yet. But the reason I bring him up is because he played 23 minutes last night, and defensively, I didn't think he stood out in a bad way. So that's a huge plus because he's going to be a guy that he's going to get his time in the postseason. Like, Cade is going to be the starter, but Vooch will have his games where he ends up playing a bulk of the minutes at the center position. That's why they went out and got him. I mean, this is a stretch 5, somebody with some offensive game. I do think that they're going to call on him to play 25 to 30 minutes, maybe a couple times throughout the course of this postseason run. So seeing that he played solid defensively with Boston last night against a really good offensive team, that was a nice sign. But overall, since the All-Star break, the Celtics are 19-6, plus 9.8 net rating. I've talked a lot about how I like the Cavaliers to win the Eastern Conference, but as of right now, Boston is for sure the most reliable of the teams in the Eastern Conference. So that is not nothing as you kind of look to handicap what's going on in the East. All right, the Rockets now. This is a really weird one because I feel like so many different times this season, people have just completely written off this Houston team, and I've been guilty of it as well. But over the last 7 games, they have the best offensive rating in basketball at 128. And that is significant because this team has remained pretty solid defensively all year long, despite playing with some injuries, dealing with the loss of Steven Adams, the loss of Fred VanVleet, some like lulls where there were 3-4 game stretches where they just couldn't guard anyone. They've been solid defensively. They've been a top 10 team defensively, very modestly. Like they've also been, closer to being a top 5 team defensively in terms of defensive rating, adjusted defensive rating, whatever you want to look at. But the offense has been a major problem. So the fact that all of a sudden they have, turned into the best offense in the league over the last 7 games, it's really significant, especially with this team having 3 games left to potentially steal home court advantage from the Lakers in the opening round and be the 4 seed in that opening round series, or even potentially go as high up as the Nuggets as the number 3. I don't think that will happen, but I do think they are going to be the 4 seed in the Western Conference, which, gives them a really good chance of winning a playoff series. And then, they go on and face potentially OKC, but, you feel better about going into that matchup now that you're able to score. And it's not just bad teams that they have done this against, which is why I wanted to bring it up. In the 7 games winning streak that they are currently on, sure, there were some tanking teams in there, but there was also a 17-point win over the Knicks where they were unguardable. There was a road win over the Warriors where they came up with some big kind of late game offense with Steph Curry playing well, by the way, for Golden State. And then, the win over the Suns, who are a very good team. It was like, it was a blowout. It really was, because after the Suns got off to that 21-point lead, it was the most lopsided game you could have possibly imagined. And it was also crazy because the Suns shot like 40 free throws in the game. Like they were so good defensively in terms of just preventing actual buckets. It was a really impressive performance from Houston. And Kevin Durant did say after the game that there's been some schematic tweaks by the coaching staff that have led to this offensive, resurgence. And I haven't seen that all kind of like myself, so I can't speak to it. I do want to kind of rewatch last night's game and maybe rewatch the Knicks game to just see what they're talking about a little bit. But it just does sound like there's been some changes, and this team does look way happier. Like I know that the body language doctor, Bill Simmons, did not like what he saw a couple weeks ago, and I feel like everybody else would have said the same. But I do think that like things are looking a little bit better for them. Everyone looks a little bit happier, and good vibes heading into the postseason is always big. So I just kind of wanted to shout out Houston because I do think you're going to see them in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs, whether you like it or not, or whether you believe that to be possible or not. A couple of weeks ago, they should beat a shorthanded Lakers team that is, missing Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. And, the Thunder, I would expect them to win that series, but I wouldn't be surprised if Houston puts up a bit of a fight. So yeah, that's really all I have for last night. But I do wanted to say before I lose you, attention any listeners who are new to VSiN, signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. All right, well, let's recap the best bets for tonight and then get you out of here. I have a parlay with the Cavaliers on an alternate plus 8.5 versus the Hawks with the Magic money line versus the Timberwolves. That's minus 118. I'm playing it to win 2 units. I have under 229.5 in Blazers Spurs at minus 110. Then I have Kawhi Leonard over 25.5 points at minus 111 versus the Thunder. So those 3 plays for me for tonight. Maybe I'll add something a little bit later. I'm not 100% sure. Feel like I did do my due diligence, kind of looking through all of the games tonight, even the bad ones. So wouldn't say it's likely, but you never know with me. I'm always checking the spreads and odds and everything right before tip off. So might add some stuff. So we will see. But yeah, make sure you head over to vsin.com for more. If you enjoyed today's show, please like, comment, rate, subscribe, whatever you can do to help us out on either YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We would really appreciate, the feedback. And if you ever have any questions for me in terms of things you want me to hit on the shows for futures or whatever, feel free to tweet at me at Betting on X. But otherwise, best of luck if you're tailing tonight. Hopefully we get back in the green, and, good luck, and we hope to see you tomorrow.